Welcome to Section 2, Lesson 9. Today is a role-play lesson where we follow a working contractor through two realistic estimating jobs to see every Section 2 skill come into play in the natural rhythm of professional work. Contracting is one of the highest volume real-world uses of basic algebra in the entire economy. Every fence, deck, paint job, plumbing repair, HVAC install, roof replacement, and renovation requires the contractor to translate a customer description into a numerical estimate, and that translation step is exactly the words to algebra and template skill we built across this section. Today's lesson shows the Section 2 toolkit operating exactly the way it operates in a small contracting business, with material lists, labor multipliers, perimeter math, and percent margins all stacking on top of each other in a single coherent workflow. First idea on the board: every contracting estimate follows the same standard structure. Total price equals materials cost plus labor cost plus profit margin. The materials cost is computed from a quantity times a unit price, often using a perimeter or area template to get the quantity from the dimensions. The labor cost is usually a per hour rate times the estimated hours. The profit margin is added as a percent on top of the cost basis. 3 layers, each one its own template, all combined into a final number that goes on the customer quote. Recognizing the 3-layer structure on every job lets the contractor produce an estimate in 15 minutes rather than 2 hours. Second idea: the contractor in our roleplay today, Maria, runs a small fencing and painting business in a mid-sized town. She produces 5 to 10 estimates per week, each one a mixed application of the Section 2 toolkit. Today, we shadow her through 2 estimating jobs: a backyard fencing project for a residential customer and a commercial painting markup calculation for a small retail space. Both jobs use perimeter or area templates, materials cost translation, labor multipliers, and percent margin templates, and both jobs combine multiple Section 2 skills in the natural sequence the work demands. The role-play format makes the Section 2 material concrete and shows the algebra working in service of a real outcome rather than as an abstract exercise. Most students who struggle with word problems struggle because they have not seen enough real applications to believe the algebra is for anything other than the textbook. Watching a contractor use the same templates on a real estimate dissolves that disbelief and converts the textbook templates into trusted tools. Today's 2 examples are simplified relative to real estimating software, but capture the structural moves that every real contractor makes on every job. The skills you have built across this section are exactly the skills that pay the contractor's rent. Every contracting estimate has the same 3-layer structure: materials cost plus labor cost plus profit margin equals total price. Recognizing the 3-layer structure on every job is the move that lets a contractor produce a clean estimate in 15 minutes rather than 2 hours of trial and error. Layer 1 is the materials cost. This is computed as the quantity of material needed times the unit price. The quantity often comes from a geometric template: perimeter for fencing or trim, area for siding or paint, volume for concrete or insulation. Once the quantity is known, multiplying by the unit price from the supplier catalog gives the materials cost as a single dollar figure. Layer 2 is the labor cost. This is the estimated hours of work multiplied by the contractor's hourly rate or by the laborer's per hour cost in a multi-person crew. Estimating the hours accurately is the craft skill that experienced contractors are paid for. The algebra of multiplying hours by rate is straightforward once the hours number is in hand. Layer 3 is the profit margin. This is added as a percent on top of the cost basis, where the cost basis is the sum of materials and labor. The percent change template from Lesson 7 applies directly. Total price equals cost basis times the quantity 1 plus the margin rate as a decimal. A 25% margin means multiply the cost basis by 1.25. Combining all 3 layers, The contractor standard estimating equation is total price equals the cost basis materials plus labor times 1 plus the margin rate. Every estimate Maria produces follows exactly this template with the specific numbers filled in from the job at hand. Today we walk through two estimates side by side to see the template in action and to watch every section, two skill contributing its piece to the final quote. Here is the first estimating job. Maria's customer wants a fence around a rectangular backyard. The customer says the length is 5 feet more than twice the width, and the width is 20 feet. Estimate the total fencing material cost at $12 per linear foot. The job uses the rectangle perimeter template from Lesson 7, the words to algebra translation from Lesson 5, and a final materials cost multiplication step. Translate the length description into algebra and substitute the known width. The phrase length is 5 more than twice the width becomes L equals 2W plus 5. Substituting W equals 20 gives L equals 2 times 20 plus 5, which equals 45 feet. The length is now a known number ready for the perimeter calculation. Step 2. Apply the rectangle perimeter template. Perimeter equals 2L plus 2W. Substituting L equals 45 and W equals 20 gives perimeter equals 2 times 45 plus 2 times 20, which equals 90 plus 40 equals 130 linear feet. The perimeter is now the materials quantity ready for the cost step. Step 3. Multiply the materials quantity by the unit price. 130 linear feet times $12 per foot equals $1,560. This is the materials cost for the fencing job, which is layer 1 of the 3-layer estimating template. Step 4. The full quote would also add labor and a margin, but for this scene we are focused on the materials step. The materials estimate is $1,560. Maria would then add an estimated 12 hours of labor at $60 per hour, giving $720 labor, and apply a 20% margin on the $2,280 cost basis to arrive at a final quoted price of about $2,736. So the materials cost for the fencing job is $1,560. The big lesson from this example is that real estimating layers the section, two skills in a natural sequence words, to algebra to translate the length description, evaluation to compute the length number, perimeter template to get the quantity, then cost multiplication to get the dollar figure. Each section, two skill contributes one piece, and the pieces stack into a clean professional estimate without anyone needing to invent new math. The algebra you learned is exactly the algebra the contractor uses every day. Here is the second estimating job. Maria is quoting an interior paint job for a small retail space. The materials and labor cost basis comes out to $1,200. She wants a 25% profit margin on top. Compute the customer's quoted total. The job uses the percent change markup template from Lesson 7 applied at the markup direction rather than the discount direction. Step 1. Identify the cost basis and the margin rate. The cost basis is $1,200. The margin rate is 25%. The quantity to find is the total quote price including the margin. Step 2. Convert the percent to a decimal immediately before any arithmetic happens. 25% equals 0.25. This conversion is the percent handling rule from Lesson 7, and skipping it is the most common percent problem error in beginning algebra. Step 3. Apply the markup version of the percent change template. Total price equals cost basis times the quantity 1 plus the margin rate as a decimal. Substituting gives total equals 1,200 times the quantity 1 plus 0.25, which equals 1,200 times 1.25. Step 4. Compute the final product. 1,200 times 1.25 equals $1,500. So Maria quotes the customer $1,500 total for the paint job, with $300 of that being her profit margin on top of the $1,200 cost basis. So the customer quote is $1,500. The big lesson from this example is that the percent change template runs in two directions. Discount uses 1 minus the rate, markup uses 1 plus the rate. Maria uses the discount direction when she quotes a sale price for a customer who haggles, and she uses the markup direction when she computes the final price from her cost basis. Both directions are the same template with the sign of the rate flipped, and both directions are in continuous use across every contracting estimate she produces. As a sanity check, 25% of 1200 is 300, which added to 1200 gives 1500, confirming the markup calculation. 3 estimating mistakes that catch every new contractor during the first year of business. Each one costs real money on real jobs and is fixable by a small explicit habit applied on every estimate. First mistake: quoting the exact computed quantity without adding a waste factor. Real fencing, lumber, paint, and tile jobs always require 10 to 20% extra material to cover cuts, off-cut strips, breakage, and overlaps. A contractor who quotes the exact computed perimeter without the waste factor is committing to a quantity that will not finish the job, and they have to either eat the cost of the extra materials or have an awkward conversation with the customer mid-job. The fix is to apply the percent change markup template to every materials quantity, multiplying by 1.1 for 10% waste or 1.2 for 20% waste before quoting. Second mistake: using the wrong direction of the percent change template. A contractor who wants a 25% margin and accidentally multiplies by 1 minus 0.25 instead of 1 plus 0.25 quotes 75% of the cost basis, losing 25% on every job. The fix is to always read the rate as either a discount that subtracts from 1 or a markup that adds to 1, with explicit attention to which direction applies. Margin and markup add. Discount and rebate subtract. Memorize the 4 words and their direction. Third mistake: mixing units across the cost calculation. Linear feet versus square feet versus yards, price per foot versus price per square foot versus price per yard. A contractor who computes 130 linear feet of fence at $12 per square foot would quote 12 times 130 equals 1,560, but the correct calculation needs price per linear foot to match the linear feet quantity. Always match the units between the quantity and the unit price, and always write the units beside every number on the estimating sheet to catch unit mismatch errors before they reach the customer. The contractor estimating template is not unique to fencing and painting. Every trade and every service business in the economy uses essentially the same materials, plus labor, plus margin structure, with only the specific numbers and the geometric templates changing. 4 broad sectors below. In plumbing, HVAC, and electrical trades, the materials quantity comes from pipe lengths, BTU heating or cooling loads, or fixture counts. The labor estimate comes from the hours required to install and test the system. The margin is added on top as a percent. The template structure is identical to fencing and painting, with only the specific catalog of materials and labor rates changing. A skilled plumber or HVAC technician produces estimates with exactly the Section 2 algebra you have been learning all week. In roofing, flooring, siding, and tiling, the materials quantity comes from square footage of the surface area, computed using the area template from Lesson 7 and amplified by a waste factor. The labor estimate comes from the hours per square foot times the total square footage. The margin sits on top. The structure is the same, just with area templates instead of perimeter templates as the geometric step. In catering and event planning, the materials cost is per head food cost times the head count, the labor cost is staff hours times wage rate, and the margin or gratuity sits on top as a percent. Every wedding, corporate event, and catered lunch is priced using exactly the percent Change templates from Lesson 7 apply to the same three-layer structure as construction. The estimating mathematics of food service is essentially the same as the estimating mathematics of construction. In software development and consulting, the materials layer often disappears or becomes negligible compared to labor, but the labor estimate of hours times rate plus a project margin on top is the dominant pricing model across the entire industry. A consultant or software contractor producing a fixed price quote uses essentially the Section 2 algebra you learned this week, with hours estimation as the craft skill and the percent margin template as the closing move on every quote. The skills are universal across trades. 3 things to take with you from this roleplay lesson today. Contracting is the highest volume real-world application of Section 2 algebra in the economy, and watching the contractor template work end-to-end demystifies the textbook templates and connects them to honest professional work. First, the standard estimating template is materials cost plus labor cost plus profit margin equals total customer price. Every estimate Maria or any other contractor produces follows this three-layer structure exactly, with only the specific numbers changing from job to job. Recognizing the three-layer structure on every estimating job is the move that makes professional estimating fast and reliable rather than slow and error-prone. Second, the materials cost layer uses the geometric templates from Lesson 7, perimeter for linear quantities and area for two-dimensional quantities multiplied by the unit price from the supplier catalog. Always add a waste factor on top of the computed quantity to cover cuts, breakage and overlap. 10 to 20% is typical depending on the material and the job complexity. Skipping the waste factor is one of the most common new contractor mistakes and one of the most expensive. Third, the profit margin uses the percent change template from Lesson 7 in the markup direction, multiplying the cost basis by the quantity 1 plus the margin rate as a decimal. The mirror direction with 1 minus the rate gives a discount price rather than a markup price, and confusing the two directions is a small algebra mistake with very large dollar consequences in real business. Always read the percent rate as either a discount or a markup and apply the correct direction explicitly. Coming up next, Section 3 opens with linear equations, where the equations the contractor builds in this lesson finally get solved for unknowns like cost basis given a target customer price, break-even hours given a fixed margin, or other professional quantities. Section 3 is therefore the natural completion of the Section 2 estimating workflow we previewed today.